Having a good time is important. And it's always a good idea to do things safely. Sometimes, though, we can't avoid accidents. They just happen when we least expect them. For instance, Ruth and her mother were out on a picnic one weekend.
My mom and I decided to have our lunch in the park one Saturday. It was terrific. She works all week, and we don't have that much time to spend together. But when we do, it's really nice. I mean, she thinks of great things to do. Anyway, it was nice and warm, and the flowers were so pretty that I thought I'd take a walk. Of course, I asked permission to go, and she said I should stay where she could see me. The flowers were bright and yellow. They smelled terrific. The bees were flying from one blossom to another. I knew if I didn't bother them, they wouldn't bother me. I saw this one big flower, and I reached down to smell it. Boy, was I surprised. There must have been a bee on the branch. Ow! It stung me right on the arm. Did it hurt? I must have knocked the bee off when it stung me. Ouch! It smarted something awful. When I looked down on the ground, I saw the bee. It sure was big. My mother was kind of far away, and I don't know if she saw what happened, but I knew what to do. I headed for the nearest cold water. My teacher had told us what to do in case we ever got stung. I was sure glad I didn't miss that lesson. It still hurt a lot, but I knew that I didn't have too much to worry about. I put cold water on the spot where the stinger went in. The pain began to go away. My mom must have missed me, and she saw me standing by the water fountain. Only I wasn't drinking, so she knew something was wrong. She came right over and took a look at my arm. She said the stinger was still there and she'd have to get it out. She told me to be very still because she had to flick the whole stinger out. She got it out, and in one piece. Then she told me that if I ever get a bee sting when I'm alone, I shouldn't try to remove the stinger by myself. I should always find a grown-up that I know, or whoever's supposed to be responsible for me, to take the stinger out.
This is a drawing of a bee. You can see the stinger on the rear part of the insect. Bees use their stingers only for self-defense. The stinger itself has many barbs or hooks on it. When the bee stings, the barbs hold tight. Usually the bee loses it after the sting. At the top of the stinger, you see a small round part. That's the venom sac. It holds the poison which makes the sting hurt. When the stinger's removed, make sure the venom sac is not squeezed, or it will hurt even worse. That's why it should only be removed by someone who knows what they're doing.
After the stinger came out, we bathed the spot once more. I'm glad my mother was there to help, but I could have done it myself, except for taking out the stinger.
Bee stings hurt a lot, and so do other insect bites. Let's take another look at what happened to Ruth and how she helped herself. Remember, you can do the same thing if you get stung or bitten. Some people get very sick from bee stings. If you or a friend find it hard to breathe or the pain doesn't go away, tell an adult and get to a doctor right away. Ruth and her mother were having a nice picnic when Ruth decided to take a look at the flowers growing nearby. Everything was blooming and the bees flew around her. She was careful not to disturb the insects. Unfortunately, she wasn't careful enough. And while looking at the flowers, didn't see one bee on the branch she was holding. The bee attacked and stung her. She knocked it off, but it was too late. The bee had done its work, and Ruth's arm hurt. She knew that she had to get something cold on the spot that was stung, so she headed for the nearest source of water. Ruth held her arm under the cold water, and that made it feel much better. Her mother saw something was wrong and came right over. Her mother carefully removed the stinger, making sure not to squeeze the venom sac. The venom sac is the small round part at the top of the stinger which contains the poison. Once it was out, Ruth felt much better, but there was one more thing to do. She had to bathe the spot in cold water once more. That took more of the pain away and would prevent the spot from swelling too much. If Ruth had been by herself, she could have done the very same thing, and so could you. The only thing you should never do is try to remove the stinger by yourself. Get an adult to help you. Remember, if you're stung or bitten by any kind of bug, a bee, spider, ant, anything, tell an adult right away so they can help you. Some people get very sick from stings or bites. They should get to a doctor immediately. Your mother, father, teacher, babysitter, or whoever's supposed to be looking out for you should know where you are, and you should know where they are. When you know how to take care of yourself in an emergency, you'll feel safer and understand there's no reason to be afraid.